Okay guys, so in this video series, I'm going to be breaking down the barbell squat. So by now, you should have went through the how to perfect the bodyweight squat. You should have went through those videos, and you can now effectively bodyweight squat as well as with a kettlebell. Once you tick off those check boxes, you can then progress to the barbell. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to be jumping between using a barbell and just using a dowel stick here just to give you from side on as well as frontal cues. Now there's a couple of things you are going to need to think about, and the first one is proper breathing mechanics. Now, sitting there thinking, what does that mean? You want to go back to the big three. So think of like the McGill curl up, where you breathe deeply into your belly and you're bracing as hard as you can. So as we're squatting, we're bracing tough and strong the whole time. What a lot of people do, I'll give you an example, is they've got the barbell on their back and they'll breathe, and then as they move, they let go of their core. So what happens is they go, they come back, and then they let their core go, and they get this rounded back posture. They get rounded back because the core's not tight and the back's not tight to be able to keep that spine neutral. So proper breathing mechanics means big air into your guts. Make sure you fill up air, like a full 360 expansion of the torso, and then the whole time you're squatting, you're bracing. Now, the next thing is making sure that when you're squatting, your hips are moving first. So what I mean by that is, as someone comes out to get ready to squat, what a lot of people might do, this is the first mistake, they break at their knees, right? So we've already discussed in the bodyweight squat, you break with your hips. So it's big air, hips back. You see here, I'm bracing my abs the whole time. I'm bracing that while I'm talking, and my hips are back. So I'm loading my glutes, not my quads as much. So I'm not breaking in my knees, I'm big air, hips back, dropping in, hips below knee, up. And then I'm racking it in from there. So think about the entire time you're lifting, the entire time you're squatting, your back's remaining tight. So just think about it now while you're sitting there or standing there. Think of your shoulder blades, and you're going to pull them down to your back pockets. That's called scapular depression. That engages your lats, which basically your lats are here. And what it does is it adds an extra bit of stability and rigidity to the lumbar spine, part of the lumbar spine, and then it also is going to help you engage things like your rhomboids and your mid traps, etc., to give the thoracic that stability, to make sure as we're squatting with a barbell, show you from side on, as we're squatting with a barbell, this is my back off, but my abs tight. This is my back on, back off, back on. So scabs up, scabs down. See the difference? So that's what we're going to be looking for here. So the next one is the hips and your chest rise all in one. So what we're looking for when we're squatting, come under, make sure you stand first, and then walk out. Going through step one, big breath. Step two, scaps back and down. Step three, hips back. Now step four is chest and hips rise at the same time. All as one. All as one. All as one. You know if you're making a mistake is if you do this. Hips rise first, right? Hips back. You know your back's not tight enough if your hips go like this, and then you have to what we call good morning the squat up. So by now what you should have done is full 360 expansion, maintaining the brace, maintaining the strong abdominals is number one. Number two, scapular depression to keep the back locked is two. Number 3, hips move first. So hips move first and open up through the hips. Step 4 is making sure that you really just maintain 1, 2, and 3, and your chest and hips rise all at the same time. The next step is making sure that the bar remains over your midfoot. So you'll know if you're doing this incorrectly by, first of all, good morning the squat. So the hips rise beforehand, because if you think about it, as I come down like so, the bar's going to be aligned over my foot. If I go forward, the bar's now over my toes. So you have to make sure the bar remains in one straight line. What you often find is the reason why people get back pain when they squat is because the bar's too far over their feet, so they have to use their lower back. Again, I'll show you with the down. As I come down, here, the bar is perfectly aligned over my feet and over, like, sort of around my knees. What will happen is if I come up here, all that pressure is now on my lower back because the weight's out here. We want the weight to be like distributed evenly across the posterior chain. So again, core, scapular depression, so back tight, making sure your hips go first, making sure that your chest and hips rise at the same time, making sure the bar goes, just think about it vertically, just up and down. And then the next one is going to be the shins, making sure the shins stay almost vertical. So again, what people will do is they'll squat, show you this, it'll be easier. They'll squat, and then their knees will come all the way forward, which means the weight's now on the front. A lot of knee, a lot of back. Remember, the more the weight goes forward, the more pressure you're going to put on your lower back. So by making sure that your shins, you just watch my shins, they stay almost vertical. Shins stay almost vertical. The weight is distributed evenly and where I want it to be so I can move the maximum load without the risk of injury. And then finally, you want to make sure you're squatting below parallel. If you can't, there could be a stability or a mobility issue. We'll deal with that when you put videos up, specific to each individual. But what we're basically looking for, our standard here at Warrior Performance is hips back, open up through the hips, and if you can see here, my hip crease is lower than my knee. So we want to make sure, as you do a bodyweight squat, which you should have already nailed, your hip crease below your knee, just with a barbell on your back, and that there is basically the breakdown of how we squat. Now what you need to know is, it's going to take you time to do this. It's going to be repetition, repetition, repetition. You didn't just, get into a car and been able to drive straight away. You didn't go to your job and know exactly the steps and processes immediately. It takes a lot of time. So what doesn't take a lot of time, the more you practice, the faster you'll get this. So I'm going to run through those cues again. Full 360 expansion of the abdominals. Make sure they are braced at all times. The only way you will get to breathe out is when you're at the top. Bracing. Second one, scapular depression. Keep the back tight. Just think about squeezing your scaps down. Squeeze your scaps in towards your spine. The next one is making sure that making sure your hips go back. So number 3 is make sure the hips go back first. Step 4 is making sure that your chest and your hips rise at the same time. Next one after that is making sure that the bar moves vertically up and down. There's no forward lean. Next one is making sure the shins stay as close to parallel as you can without falling backwards. And then finally, the final step is making sure that your hip crease is below the top of your knee. So that's the standard of how we lift. If you have any questions, pop them below. What I'm going to do now, just to wrap up the video, is I'm going to perform 5 squats of how this should look, and I want you to sort of pick up on all of those cues. and that's how we perform the barbell back squat.